Three new polls about President Trump versus Zogby, favorable to the president. 1,000 likely voters. Do you approve or disapprove? 48% approve of the job President Trump is doing. 49% disapprove. Split right down the middle. Trafalgar poll, pro-Trump poll. Okay. 1,098 likely general election voters. How do you feel about President Trump handling his job? Approve 54, disapprove 46. That's a very strong number for the president. And the last one is Atlas. This is out of Brazil, but they were the most accurate pollsters in the election of 2024. 3,469 adults, big sample. Okay. Do you approve or disapprove job Donald Trump is doing? Approve 45, disapprove 54. So, there's a big, it's almost exactly the opposite of Trafalgar. So joining us now is our go-to guy on the polling. John McLaughlin's an honest man. He works for President Trump. I mean, we got to let you know that. He likes Trump. He likes his policies. He polls for Trump, but he's an honest man. All right, so can you explain to us the difference between Trafalgar and Atlas?
Yes, well, first of all, it's the difference between likely voters and adults. And we just posted a poll that we did last week at the same time as the Atlas poll was in the field. And we polled 1,000 likely voters modeled after the 2024 election and demographics. And we had Trump's job approval of 51 and his disapproval was 44. And it's a big difference because in the election last year, you only had 155 million voters go to the polls. There was over 90 million more eligible adults who didn't show up at the polls that there's polling when you're doing a poll.
But what difference does that make? Shouldn't they have a right to put an opinion on Trump's performance?
Oh, they can have an opinion, but it's a poll of adults. It's not a poll of likely voters, so you get the disparity. And also, when you go through the Atlas sample, they have a crosstab for voted Trump, voted Harris. But in their demographics, they don't tell you how many people that they polled voted for Harris and voted for Trump. And that's been the flaw. We know in our likely voter polls, we used our polling as a strategy to raise his popular vote so we could sweep the battleground states, so we get 50% of the national vote, and to Harris is 48%. And that was our strategy. So it's not apples to apples. And when you look at Atlas, yeah, they were most accurate last year because they were doing something that replicated actual likely voters. These polls that are coming out now where you've got, I mean, the New York Times put out a poll, they had only had 37% Trump voters. The Washington Post, ABC, had only 34%.
Yeah, I know, but we don't even bother with them anymore because we know how corrupt it is. They have their thumb on the scale, to use a cliche. How do you think Donald Trump is doing, though? I mean, you're seeing numbers every day. It's obvious he was successful or is successful closing the border. Most people do support the ICE raids and getting that whole thing under control. But the tariff situation has roiled the American people and I think divided it. Would I be wrong in saying that?
Well, they don't grasp it as well as the tax cuts. In the national poll that we put up, 58% want them to get the tax cuts passed. 20% secure the border, 7%, lower the price of oil and gas, 7% strengthen national defense. But at the same time, we asked in the same poll, do you think the tariffs have hurt or have they helped? And 47% think they've helped right now. That was as of last week. Only 38% said hurt. So the jury's still out on that. It's a much more complex issue. And hopefully...
Sure. But it really isn't. You know why, John? Because what it's going to come down to, and this will clarify itself by November, I think, is whether people are paying more money for the essentials of life. That's what it's going to be. I mean, people don't have to understand who's paying it and where it's coming from, and this one's there, and that steel here, and the cars are there, and the agricultural... They're going to walk into the grocery store, and they're going, I'm getting a break under Trump, or I'm paying more under Trump. And that's what's going to decide it. Am I wrong?
No, you're exactly right. And that's why the tariffs issue is secondary and much, much less important than passing the tax cuts. Because if we don't pass the tax cuts, only half the voters know this. We know this from our polling. The Trump tax cuts lapse this year.
Yeah, and everybody pays more. There's no doubt about it. So it is a vital thing, and that's why Trump is behind it so hard. I think he's going to get it passed, but there's going to be some Senate modifications, and Trump will live with that. He knows he has to negotiate it. But the Democrats have downside too here, because if they vote en bloc not to pass it, then easily that anger when people's taxes go up can be transferred to the Democratic Party, right?
Right. But hopefully the taxes never go up. But the Democrats, every Democrat in the Senate and the House is on record as voting against extending the tax cuts. So they've all voted for the largest tax increase in the history of America. And we've got to hold them accountable. We got to get it
crazy.
Passed.
And they hide behind this ridiculous, we just want to tax the rich. But it isn't that. It's everybody. And, it's the same thing about Medicaid. Oh, they want to throw people off Medicaid. No, they want to regulate it. They want to refine it. But anyway, political lies are, they're never ending. Last question for you. I think President Trump would have been better if he had not done so much so fast. It would have been easier for him to convince the American people of why he's doing what he's doing. But because the change has been so massive, because the Biden administration was so horrible, that it all came at once. And it's almost too much for the average person who doesn't do what you and I do for a living to grasp it. So they're more subjected to propaganda. So if he had just not done and just incrementally done it, I think he'd be in a stronger position. Do you agree?
You may be right, but it's hard to get him to do that. You know him personality-wise.
Yeah, I know.
Biden left the country in such a mess. He has a 40 favorable, 56 unfavorable in our last poll. The guy left such a mess that Trump, he's got to solve wars in Ukraine, the Middle East, secure the border, and try to get the economy to grow all at the same time. And you're dealing with a president now who has survived two assassination attempts after they tried to put him in jail. So if we don't get the Trump tax cut passed, have a growing economy, and we lose control of the House in the midterms, then we've got a big problem because they'll impeach him again. And he knows
that's for sure. I'm writing about that in my message of the day tomorrow about the midterms and now how it's starting to shape up. So, John, look, if you see any trends, just do me a favor. Let us know about the president, both pro and con, because I think our audience is we're numbers people here. We don't want the propaganda. We want the hard numbers. And we really appreciate it, as always. Thanks for helping us out. Thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on X. Look for @Bill O'Reilly.